There she is. Now, you will probably find, though, that she will not live to much more than, I don't know, out here 14 or 15 would be a pretty good age. I'm not sure that she knows where young Thamba has gone. She's looking in completely the opposite direction from where he is, or where we left him. So there's another vehicle coming in. I think we're going to stay with her for now. Yeah, she's just... You see that noise she's making? She's making that sort of hissing noise. Harry, you're wondering if an adult leopard would be able to defend itself against a male lion. And the answer is absolutely no chance at all. She weighs less than half of what a female leopard weighs, at least lion weighs. She weighs about a third of what a female lion weighs, which means the chances of her defending herself against a lion are 0. Now that's half because of her mass, and half because of the fact that a lion is prepared to fight. A leopard cannot fight. A leopard cannot take the chance to fight. If a leopard fights, it could easily get injured, and if a leopard gets injured, it will never eat again. Whereas if a lion gets injured, of course, it lives in a group, and it's quite possible that it will be able to scavenge off its pride mates. I'm just trying to get on the radio again. Stations, this is the female. The male is further to the east on the road, just on top of a termite mound, about 50 meters to the east of this current position where the kill is. Now, we can't see her anymore, and I think we might have to think about going towards the male. In the meantime, let us go all the way to the north and find out what Leo Smith has got in the Mara.
Welcome back to Kenya. We've left those lionesses and we're now with 2 adult male lions. Remember, this is 100% live, coming to you from the Maasai Triangle. Now, there are 4 male lions in this coalition, currently only 2, catching a snooze. As I said, it's quite a cool, windy morning here in the Mara, but very exciting to catch up with them. We're probably about 1.5 kilometers from where we were with the lionesses, and well, unfortunately, they are quite flat. They haven't lifted their heads for a while now, but who knows? You never know what's going to happen, and that is why we do live safaris. Remember, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter if you've got any questions for us out here. So there's 4 males in this coalition, and they said to cross the river as well. So they, as far as I know so far, and of course we're still figuring out all the lion dynamics in the area, they are lord over the Angama pride, the Olololo pride, are their 2 main prides of lions that they are lord over, and I suppose all 7 cubs of the Angama pride are probably theirs, but of course, you know, lions are strange creatures, and females will mate with nomadic males, and in certain areas up to 50% of cubs born are not genetically related to the dominant males in the area. So it is quite an interesting phenomenon, and as we spend more and more time here in the Mara, we're going to understand more of what's going on. So it is very exciting to catch up with these big boys. I haven't seen them for about 10 days, but we have been working in areas on the other side of the river and further to the south. So we'll see what's going to be happening around here. Oh, have I lost comms again? Apologies, I think my earpiece is giving up the ghost. Let me just play with it a little bit. There we go. I think I've got Chantal back. Oh no, I lost Chantal again. No. Okay. Let me just try one more trick. Oh, there we go. We've got her. Okay, there we go. We've got Chantal back. So remember, any questions, hashtag Safari Live. Hello, Rossley. Rossley would like to know, is this the same coalition that the Scar male belongs to? It is not. It is another coalition of 4. Not sure on their name yet. We're still trying to meet with the lion researchers. They are away at the moment, giving a presentation in the UK, so I have to wait for them to get back. The coalition of 4 that Scar is part of are called the Musketeers, and they are mostly dominant over the Paradise Pride, which is over the crossing area, so where the wildebeest cross the Mara River, and that is to the south and east of us. And we have seen them, and I think Scar was actually seen in the Mara Triangle yesterday. So we might take a little meander from here and head further south and see if we can find any other lions, or even hopefully that female cheetah that we've been seeing regularly around the Hippo Pools area. So it is very exciting, and it's the wonderful thing about being live. We literally have no idea what we're going to see around the next corner. It's very strong, well, not strong, there's a slight breeze this morning. There was quite a lot of rain and wind last night. Aaron's wondering if we've seen the Chitwa Tembo Pride yet. So, from my research and chatting to one of the lion experts, Patrick, who's on the other side of the river, and so basically in 2014, from the information that we've got, the 7 lionesses broke away from the Marsh Pride and crossed the river. Now these 7 lionesses basically make up what's called the Angama and the Olololo Prides at the moment, and they pushed the Chitwa Tembo Pride out and north into the Conservancy. So, and we haven't seen them, and I don't think we're going to see them for the next foreseeable future, as they have been pushed out, according to the information that we've got so far on the lion dynamics in the area. Justin would like to know, why are the male lions so tired? Well, Justin, it's hard work defending a territory, and also on average lions sleep for about 20 out of 24 hours, and even their bouts of movement are not 4 hours of continuous movement. They'll walk for 20 minutes, sleep for an hour, walk for 15 minutes, sleep for 10, walk for an hour, sleep for 3. So it all just depends. Now, they probably have been moving quite big distance overnight, patrolling, roaring, proclaiming their domain. So now that it's no longer nighttime, and of course there's a couple of reasons why lions prefer to roar at night. They're more active, and the second more important reason is the sound carries over a bigger distance, so other lions will be able to hear them from a bigger distance at night. And generally at night the wind dies down. As you can see, the wind's blowing not too strongly now, but that would also affect the sound of their roars carrying. So most of their big patrolling and movement is done in the nocturnal hours. So, and they will sleep for the majority of the day. I don't think these males are going to move very far from these little bushes. They might just migrate around as the sun moves, just to get some shade. Although I think they might be in a bit of luck today. It's cloud cover coming in from the northeast. So there we go. And well, Dave and I are not going to complain either. The sun up here when there is no clouds can be quite scathing. I think we've gone about four shades darker. But of course we're bringing you a live safari not only from Kenya but also from the Sabi Sands in South Africa, and it sounds like Jamie is on foot with elephants.
We are indeed on foot with our retreating elephant, who came 10 meters away from us, probably a little bit less actually. It's easy to exaggerate those sorts of distances when you're on foot with an elephant because they're so big that they seem closer than they are. But he walked for a round from where he was feeding earlier. He came and stood with us for a while. My favourite part of that whole sighting was when Rexon said to him, "Good morning, sir," as he lifted up his head. "Good morning, sir." It was wonderful. Anyway, he left, and then he came back to come and see what we are, because he now obviously knows that we're around, and that's the tricky thing about elephants. They're clever. He's still here. All he's done is he's walked in behind cover and gone still. And he's standing there and he's thinking, what was that? Maybe I should go back. Am I scared? Am I curious? I want to go and investigate and see what those things were doing on the termite mound. Those humans. And through it all, my stomach has rumbled its way senseless. We've been listening to the sounds of elephant feeding and Jamie's stomach making a racket. I'm just going to stand up. Yeah, I think that was it. I think that was his final approach. There wasn't very much aggression in him at all. In fact, I wouldn't even call what he did aggressive. Curious. And obviously, when he's curious but he's not quite sure what's going on, he wants to make himself look big and scary, ears out. But it was a situation where we didn't even need to stand up. We didn't need to raise our voice. There was nothing that we needed to do to interfere with his behavior. I can't see him anymore. I think he's kept moving. We'll give it a little bit of time. Unthaw our limbs on the termite mound since we've been sitting hunched over. It was very, very cool though. Epic. Nothing in the world can match that feeling. Brian, I've never noticed any difference with elephants and responding better to male voices versus female voices, except if you've got a woman speaking in a high-pitched voice or screaming hysterically. That also has a tendency to upset them. But no, absolutely there's a tone thing. Low voices, always with elephants, low voices. Even when you're shouting at them, a high-pitched voice is not going to have the same effect as a low-pitched voice, which is why when I shout at elephants, it's a hey. I deepen my voice deliberately, rather than trying to shriek at them girlishly. So there is that difference, but in terms of normal day-to-day interaction, normal talking, as long as you keep your voice low, I've never noticed a difference in them responding to me or to James or to Tristan. But I always try and control the tone that I talk to them in. Alright, need to figure out where our gentleman has gone so that we can go around him. But James, as Leopard, is still on the move.
Yes, they've just met up, you know. The youngsters just come through here, but they didn't seem to have any contact. They just sort of, he came by, took a look at her and then carried on, and she now almost seems to be stalking him. Anyway, they're still quite close to the kill. I'm hopeful that they might go back there and perhaps try and drag it up into that tree. But regardless, we're having a wonderful sighting here of two leopards. Thamba is just basically behind the bushes on the left-hand side of your screen. He got into this area without us noticing. There she comes. She's stalking him. I mean, look how easily they hide here. I don't know if he's still in there or not. Alright, let's move. We'll go around this side here. Trout. This is a small Acacia exuvialis tree. I'm not worried about them. They're an encroacher species. They might also be looking for some water, I suppose. But I don't know. No, I don't know that it's hot enough for that yet. They, of course, are completely water independent. Here they come. Well, here's one of them. That's her. I wonder if he hasn't slipped up towards the carcass. Can you still see her, yeah. Ferg? There she goes. Now, crested gecko, you're wondering how many miles. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. You're wondering how many miles a leopard's call can be heard from. I'm going to go forward a little bit. I don't want to harass her, but we do need to be just a little bit further forward because that's too beautiful. Crested gecko, I think you could probably, if you were another leopard, you could probably hear a leopard's call from a good 4 or 5 miles maybe. But I think that if you were a human being, I would say 2 miles is probably round about the distance that you'd be able to pick it up. Isn't that lovely? And William, you're wondering about the size of her territory. You'll probably find in this area the average leopard's territory is about 15 square kilometers, which is roughly 9 square miles or so. Maybe slightly smaller. But I would say that's probably what you're looking at. We are very, very lucky to spend this amount of time with leopards. Oh, he's right there. Her son is just sneaking off towards the left there, and I think he's going to go towards the carcass. He should come out into the open now. Isn't that wonderful? Now, I think he's going to go towards the kill. What do you think, Ferg? Should we go to the kill or stay with her?
Let's stay with her for a couple.
I think we should stay with her for a couple too, because I think she looks rather special on that tree. I'm just going to break the door a little bit. That is spectacular. I mean, you do not see that kind of thing every single day. Yes, my dear, you've put your face so beautifully into the light. Thank you. We are most appreciative of your efforts on our behalf. It's always at times like this that I feel that maybe everything is right with the world. No matter how we as human beings do our level best to muck things up, here are the leopards doing their level best to show us that no matter how hard we try, we will never quite be able to muck things up entirely. Lynn, you're wondering if there are any leopards starting to sort of take over Karula's territory. The answer is yes, and you're looking at her. She's not in Karula's old territory yet, but she certainly has been in Karula's old territory, and she's spent quite a lot of time making forays up into the southern parts of Djuma, which she didn't used to do before. It wasn't something she did before, and so what's happening now is that just slowly, you'll find that Karula's territory will start to close out. So it'll be not invaded, but it will be incurred upon from different sides. And what was I going to say there? As it's incurred upon, or as it's in these incursions happen, they'll happen from not only from the south and east, which is where she's coming from, but I think you'll find that Shadow, for example, from the west, will also start to spend time here. Tristan was mentioning Tiani, of course, who's a young young female leopard, 3 years old, daughter of Salayeshe, looking for a territory. She could easily find that vacant. And I think those are the 3 main candidates. Shongile is still a little bit young to be taking a territory, but it's not impossible that she could set up residence around here as well. Or not around here, but around where her mother was. That would be most appropriate though, wouldn't it? I always think that these things look so uncomfortable, these trees. He's just watching for young Thamba. Alright, I think he started to snack on this kill. Shall we head around that way, Ferg? Perhaps she didn't like the tickle of the grass on her belly or something like that. Maybe that's why she decided being up there is the best place to be. Really, you are spoiled when you've got to decide, should we be with the one leopard or the other leopard? It's amazing also to me how much like her sister she looks. She looks very similar to Shadow. She's got that slightly shortened snout. And it's a little bit, yeah, there he is, he's eating. It's just a little bit sort of wrinkly, if you know what I mean. Hello, boy. Let's go around this side. Hello, Bill. You're wondering on the method of murder that a leopard employs in order to find its meals? Bill, what it does, there are two main methods. The first, let me just get around here, Bill, and then I will address your question. The first, Bill, with a small kill, like a rat or a bird or something like that, would be to grab it and bite it on the back of the head. And biting it on the back of the head will then snap the spine and kill it immediately. However, something the size of the impala here. How's that? Is that right? Something the size of the impala, Bill, they will ambush, jump on the back, and then slide around to the throat and throttle the animal while kicking viciously with their back feet and their claws. But it becomes, when the mass of the prey in question is greater than their own mass, they must try and throttle the thing. So they grab it by the throat and suck, or not suck, grab it by the throat and sort of crush the windpipe. I think he's going to go up the tree because they're not big enough to break the spine like they would with smaller things. Come on, fella, up you go. And Louise in the final control would like to know, has he been using his mother's lipstick? Louise, he has. It's nothing to be alarmed about. Young male leopards often use their mother's lipstick, and yes, that is certainly why he's, you see, he knows now he's been cuffed. It was, of course, blood that Louise was talking about. Leopards don't wear lipstick. Not even the females. Yes. He does look a little bit like Eddie Izzard. Maybe he will wear lipstick one day. William, you're wondering how much food a leopard eats every day. William, that is not a question that is answerable because a leopard might not eat every day. This kill you'll probably find will last the two of them a good 4 days. And, you know, this leopard probably weighs, well, he's about the same as his mother now, so let's call him about 40 kilograms. And 40 kilograms also, in one sitting, they can probably eat between 10 and 15% of their body mass. So he can probably eat between 4 and 6 kilograms of meat per sitting if he wanted to. Isn't this wonderful? And Elizabeth, I think you might have the wrong end of the stick slightly here. You said do two female leopards fight each other in the same way for a territory that males would? Elizabeth, just about all leopards will avoid all forms of confrontation if they can. Yes, they do have conflict over territory, the females, but they don't fight each other. They don't, they don't have vicious biting and clawing fights. That's very unusual. Yes, it does happen from time to time, but it's not common. It's really quite unusual for it to happen. And I suppose it might happen slightly more with the males than it does with the females, but by and large, all of the male conflicts that I have seen have been two males lying next to each other, growling for hours on end, and then they leave each other alone. It very seldom escalates into actual violence because they're both very powerful, very strong, with very sharp weapons, and they will do horrendous damage to each other. And so their whole territorial sort of modus operandi, if you like, is to avoid competition, to scent mark, to say this is where I am, don't come near me, and to make that loud sawing roar at night in order to let the others know where they are. And then if they aren't territorial, to not make any kind of sign of their presence. Lions are slightly different. And females the same, and they might, the male fights happen seldom, and I think you'll find female fights probably happen slightly less frequently even, but they're by and large, you will unlikely to see a huge physical fight between two territorial male or female leopards. Very nice that his mother's provided this meal for him. Very nice also that we've been able to spend this amount of time with them. Alrighty, we're going to sit here and let him carry on eating. In the meantime, Tristan has left his dwarf mongoose. I don't know what he's looking for now.
Well, we did leave our dwarf mongoose because we had reports of alarm calls and we went and followed up, but alas, nothing that we could find. And so it's being a dry, very quiet morning for myself and Sebastian. We have seen dwarf mongoose, really. That's all we've seen, and an odd impala here and there. Is that about it, Ace?
And a beautiful sunrise.
And a beautiful sunrise. Thank you, Sebastian. Always got to put a positive spin on things, so that's pretty true. And otherwise, really, we've seen very little. No signs of anything. It's been a pretty frustrating morning, to be honest. And it seems like everything is happening off our boundaries. The male lions that crossed into Manyeleti. There's the Inkahuma pride on Simamili, Tingana on Simamili, a female leopard on Simamili, the wild dogs on Simamili. So it's everywhere we can't go this morning, which is how it goes sometimes. You've got to have these days where you struggle a little bit, and hopefully things get a bit better. Although James and Jamie seem as though they're doing just fine. They both seem like they've had great sightings this morning, which is excellent. So at least all of you have been attracted to things, and Brent also sounds like he's having a wonderful time in the Masai Mara, and I'm a bit jealous of Brent. It sounds like he's had a lot of fun and seen some amazing things. So I'm glad that we're going to be doing it. And from sort of, what have you spotted? Warthogs fighting or mating? If it was a school drive, wrestling if it was school. So there we go. There's our mating warthogs doing their business. Now we are all the way on Arathusa airstrip, so it should be quite nice and open. And there we go. There's our warthogs. Buddy, I don't think you're quite getting it right at this stage. He seems like he's battling a little bit to try and actually get on top of the female. So hopefully at some stage he will sort himself out. But there we go. You can see Piglet is very confused by all of this, and you two are being naughty doing it in front of the kids. That's not very good at all. No bedroom manners whatsoever. Now, I was trying to find out how long the other day in camp, and Jamie had mating dogs, and so I was exactly how long they actually mate for, and there's sort of mixed reviews. Some people say that this can go on for over an hour, where he sits like this on top of her. I can't see that happening though. I mean, it looks so uncomfortable. Now Piglet is getting involved as well. Oof, this is not ideal. This is not for family viewing, that's for sure. And how uncomfortable it must be for her in terms of having to support his weight. You can see he's much bigger and bulkier than what she is, so not easy at all. And to have this kind of male latched onto the back of you can't be very fun. And it actually doesn't seem like he's doing anything. It seems like he's almost falling asleep on top of her, which is not ideal. Now, Sebastian, you did make me laugh because you said there's warthogs and you didn't want to say the mating word. Were you a bit shy, Sebastian?
No, it's more like I wasn't actually sure if it was play fight.
Okay.
I was got a glimpse of it.
Seb said he wasn't sure if it was dominance or play fighting or wasn't. Now, the glimpse. Now, we can see nicely sort of the differences, one in size, and two in how we sort of ID males and females. This is quite a nice example because you can see the female at the bottom, much smaller, but also far more underdeveloped tusks, and she lacks that sort of set of warts around the face area. Now, I know James had a female the other day that did have that extra set of warts, which is very interesting. Generally, the females don't have it. It's only the males that will have that wart just above the tusk. You can see it sort of between the nose and the eye. There's a protrusion on the male, and that allows you to be able to see male and female, so you can see it very, very clearly between the two there. Oh no. This is not ideal. I feel sorry for the little piglet, actually, because it looks very confused by this whole process. Wouldn't it? Yeah. I think Piglet needs to go and find somewhere to go and graze while this all goes on. It honestly looks like he's fallen asleep on top there. His kind of front legs are splayed out and he's not really doing anything. Yeah. So, Teresa, you say this is brings a new meaning to the term piggyback. Well, yes, there we go. It's basically how it works out here. It's just that time of the year for the warthogs, and so I suppose we just have to kind of grin and bear it, and there's really not much the females can do about it. What are you doing, buddy? Now, there are talented individuals and there are less talented individuals, and this looks like one of them. So, this might be a fine time for a one-word tweet as to what you would make of this whole situation. So, hashtag Safari Live, one word for this. So, Alara Moore, you are saying that the baby is almost watching as if to say, are you guys play fighting? And well, yes, poor baby, this is going to be scarred for life. It's going to see this and not know what's going on. Hopefully the baby doesn't now try and sort of get in on the action and jump on the male. That would be quite something for the books. Although it looks like it's now going to feed its way away from this horrid scene that is unfolding in front of its eyes.
He's got a gash on his bum.
Does he have a gash on his bum there as well?
Yeah.
I wonder if she hasn't given it to him. Oh, have we got a dismount? I think we do. There we go. She's managed to wiggle her way free, which is probably very thankful for her, I would imagine. Oh, that's why. Warthogs are putting on a fine show this morning. It's just gone all pear-shaped. Not only have we got mating, she's now just lifted her tail and dropped a whole bunch of excrement at us. It's really not an ideal situation at all. Now Piglet's coming up just to Mom just to be like, are you okay? Everything's fine, all good. Shaking it off. Yes, we're talking about you. Almost like the walk of shame, really. Unfortunately, to now walk away. She doesn't seem too perturbed by it, though. I suppose it is natural, and that's the sort of way it goes. Male's also gone back to feeding. He's not too worried about life either. Pretty happy. But where's this gash? Do you see one? It's not mud.
No, it's on the young one.
On the young one?
It's on this one.
So, Riti, you're saying nature at its best? Well, yes. Well, or at its worst. I'm not quite sure just yet. Like I say, that's one of the more sort of comical displays of what I've seen. Now, Seb says it's got a big gash on it. Oh, look, it does have a big gash on its backside. Now, that must hurt this little piglet, but it's definitely going to be sore. And I wonder if maybe either the male could have caused that when he's trying to mate with his female. Sometimes male will get quite feisty and sort of go at the young ones, because it doesn't look like the claws of a predator that's grabbed that piglet. The sort of piglets, if they'd been grabbed by a predator, we would have seen claw marks rather than one big long gash. That almost looks like a tusk from the male that might have inflicted that wound on this little one. It doesn't look very nice at all. Shame. Poor baby. We'll try to see if we can't get a little bit closer. So, Judy, you say your one word is awkward. Well, yes. I think awkward best describes what we've just witnessed right there. That is not ideal in any way whatsoever. Not only was it awkward from the male, but it's just her kind of going to the toilet afterwards was not exactly ideal either. So, awkward is probably a very good way to describe what we just saw. Now, here we go. Maybe we can get to see that baby's backside a little bit better and see how bad that gash is, but it definitely looks quite painful, and I hope it wasn't inflicted by the male. It's possible that it could have been, though. Now, Seb's just trying to get all his things sorted out. Like I say, we are on the new cameras, and this is Seb's first time on it, so he's just trying to figure out everything and get it all sorted out. But Seb, you've done quite well, actually. You've handled yourself with a problem this morning. So there we go. There's a male. I hope you're not responsible for that youngster's backside. And like I say, it does happen with these young ones, because if they get in the way, sometimes the males, all sort of hyped up on testosterone, can inflict a wound like that. So, Riti, you're wondering how long the pregnancy period is. Well, we will start to see the piglets in October, so it's basically 5 months that they are that they gestate for until they give birth. There will be some that will be a little bit later in November and even into December. And what's interesting is last year, with the sort of drought, we saw that the piglets were actually a little bit later than normal. So there was probably a slower fetal development than what we will see this year. This year there should be a little bit more food around, and so the fetuses should grow quite well. But yes, October, end of October, beginning of November is when we start to see the first piglets coming out. So 5 month gestation period. But that's really cool to now see that sort of shot of the three of them together. You can get a nice size comparison of all three, and well, just the male is not on his knees at the moment, but otherwise the rest of them were down on their knees at one point. After a bit of exercise, you've got to feed and get the nutrients up, so it's now feeding with relish at this stage. It looks like they're loving their grass breakfast this morning. There we go, look at that. Isn't it quite a cool moment between the little one and the male? Hello, guys. Are you busy saying hello and making friends? But that little gash is very superficial. That will heal, no problem. It's not going to cause too many problems for a warthog like this. You'll find if that little one just goes and finds some mud and rolls around a bit, and it will start to heal, and you'll find that it won't suffer too many ill effects from it. What is interesting is that generally on this airstrip, because we're on Arathusa airstrip at the moment, you'll find that the piglets, or the warthogs that I've seen here, there were a number of piglets with them. There was more than just this one, and so I don't know if this is a new female that's come onto this area. It will be interesting to see. I want to drive up a little bit towards the pan. Maybe I'll find the rest of the piglets that side, or the female with more piglets, because at the last time I saw, I think there was 5 of them, so I would be a bit surprised if it's just the one. Maybe the wild dogs came through here and caused a bit of havoc. Shame little one, that doesn't look very comfortable at all. Luckily they're not humans and don't have to sit on their backside. Until you're wondering how aggressive the warthogs are. Well, warthogs can be very aggressive when cornered. So now in a situation like this where they're out in the open and they're feeding and they're not having to worry too much, they are perfectly sort of relaxed and they're not going to be too stressed. Us as people, if I had to walk there, they would probably run away from me. But if I had to corner them somewhere where they feel like they can't escape, a warthog can be very, very, very aggressive, and they'll come at you with those big tusks that you see on the face there. And those big ones that you see protruding are actually not the ones that you worry about. When you see them him opening his mouth. You see there's some on the lower jaw. Now those lower jaw sort of canines or tusks that come out, they rub up against the top ones and they get so sharp. They become almost like a scalpel, and those are the ones that do a lot of damage and will cause those kind of gashes that we see on the baby's backside. And so if they feel threatened, they definitely are not an animal you want to mess around with. It's particularly because they're also at the height of your shins and legs, so they would probably do quite a bit of damage to a person. And I've seen a number of predators come off second best against warthogs. I've seen leopards with massive cuts all over them. I remember Mafufenyan. Now Mafufenyan, for those of you who don't know, was a male leopard that was actually believed to be the father of Karula. And so he was around, and he got a serious gash to the forehead from a warthog. He kind of got his whole head open, and you could actually see his skull from that warthog, and the warthog got away. So they can be very aggressive when they need to defend themselves and defend their females or young ones. I've seen a number of cheetah also getting a serious hiding from warthogs. So, William, you're wondering how many piglets the female can take care of at once. Well, generally what you'll find is that she can give birth to up to 8 at a time. Most of the time, though, we'll see sort of 6, 7 of them, and she'll then be able to suckle all of those. Interestingly enough, though, you'll find that she'll look after sometimes her previous litter. So she might have her piglets from the year before and then her current ones at the same time. So she can look after quite a number of them. But generally, once they've gone through a year, they're pretty self-sufficient. Even a piglet of this size will be pretty self-sufficient these days. As you can see, it's feeding on its own right. It will be aware of predators, and it's very mobile, so it will be able to get away from predators quite easily. So generally, after the sort of first 4 months, the piglets start to have a better survival rate. It's really that first little bit that is so difficult, because you'll end up being in termite mounds, and a lot of the leopards out here know that, and they'll then just sit on a termite mound and they wait for the female to run out, and once the female runs out, they then wait for each piglet, and as the piglets run out, they grab them. So it's that first few months that they need to be very careful, and when they're still tiny, that they have a lot of predators. That's why they're feeding in an area like this. It's so open that it's going to be very difficult for any predator to get anywhere near there. Rishnikesh, who's a new viewer, welcome. I hope you're enjoying the show and loving this sort of piece of Africa that we're able to bring to you every single day. And you want to know how much they eat on a daily basis. Well, I'm not actually sure how much they eat. Maybe let's have a little look quickly. I do have a book with me that sometimes does tell us these things, so I'm going to try and quickly honest. They are ruminating animals, so they're able to regurgitate and... Now wait, did I just say they were ruminating animals? No, they're not ruminating animals. I lie, sorry. That's not very good of me. But they don't seem to sort of stop feeding. They eat most days. Let's see what it tells us here about how much they can eat. It doesn't actually say how much they consume per day, but it just says that they really need a lot of water. No, it doesn't tell us how much they can eat in a day. I'll have to try and see and find out if I can't get some more information for you and be able to give you a better idea. But like I say, they spend most of their day feeding. They dig up lots of roots and tubers and all kinds of other things and are able to then shove them in and sort out their sort of stomachs. But it's amazing how much feeding they do. I doubt that they get a lot. Every time they kind of take off from these short sections here, it's only small little pieces that they're getting in. So I'm not sure what the entire weight would be. We'll have to try and do a little bit of researching, or if there's anybody out there that can help us and has found any research on how much warthogs eat per day, that would be a very big help. Hashtag Safari Live. Right, let's leave our promiscuous warthogs to themselves and stop being stalkerish and watching them, even though they do have company in the form of young ones. I wanted to try see if I couldn't find our jackal family while we were out here, so I'm going to try and have a look. I know James and Aaron, you guys both love the jackals, so I'm going to try and see if I can't find them quickly for you. And they often spend their time where we are now in this sort of southern part of the airstrip, and so I'm hoping that maybe, just maybe, they are around. Now, while we try and search for our jackal pair, I believe Jamie is still walking out and about and has managed to get away from her elephant.
We did manage to get away from the elephant. It wasn't too difficult. We just had to wait for him to decide to move away from us, and then it was absolutely fine for us to go. I'm really glad I got that sighting for my last walk on Djuma. I think that's going to be the last time that I get to do that for a little while. It'll obviously happen again, but I don't know that it'll be, it's such a different situation, it's such a different setup there. So it's nice to take advantage of those moments when they come along. And speaking of hopeful encounters, I'm at Treehouse Dam in the hope that perhaps there's a sign of Shongile and Hosana. It would be nice to catch up with them as well. Unlikely, but it would be really lovely. The only thing I can hear is the blacksmith lapwings, who are very cross with us, on the opposite side of the bank, making their characteristic sound that gives them their name. Oh, there we go. Peyton was asking about if there was anything special that I'd like to see before going to the Mara. Hosana and Shongile, preferably both. Either one would be great. I think at this stage it's probably unlikely, but I was hopeful that I might have a chance to see them. But you know what? I'm not going to dismiss that elephant sighting. That was special. Those circumstances don't often collide in the way that they did for us this morning, that you've got the wind in your favor, you've got a nice, comfortable, confident elephant bull, so a mature boy, not a young bull that's going to hightail it as soon as he hears a twig snap, but a comfortable, confident bull, a really nice high termite mound, and open area. It just worked out beautifully, and the circumstances don't often collide to give you those sorts of things. And now as we go into winter, bushwalks will spend more time with elephants, I imagine. Our Coda Karula, welcome as always to our live safaris. Coda, you want to know if animals can be... Did I hear that correctly, Chantal? I just want to double check that I did hear that correctly. Okay. Coda Karula wants to know if animals can be artistic or autistic. Okay, it is autistic. So Coda, you want to know if animals can be autistic. They can. They absolutely can. And you'll probably find that it happens more often than we realize, because we can't speak to the animals, so we don't know exactly how it is that they might be behaving or why they might be behaving that way. Anti-poaching patrol. Very brave people. Rection just tells me that that plane crashed last year, but everybody survived, fortunately. Sorry, Coda, I'll come back to your question in a second. So yes, animals absolutely can be autistic, and in a situation like that, they'll have to learn very well from their mums and from their families, and they get a lot of support, because animals won't be able to distinguish. They don't know what autistic is, so it won't bother them at all. So the family's not going to ignore them or shun them. They'll help to support the different animals that, if they happen to be in that way. But remember, we can't speak to the animals, so it's very difficult for us to know exactly what it is they're going through and exactly how they experience different personalities. We don't see it, but it's something that probably does happen more regularly than we realize. Right, to the water's edge. The terrapins are here. Rishikesh, yes, it is risky to walk near the bank as we go up to the water. Rexon actually was quite far ahead of us, walking ahead to check that there weren't any buffalo. So I would have assumed that by now, if he thought there was a hippopotamus in this waterhole, he probably would have mentioned it to us. Otherwise, it would be quite dangerous to walk right up to the water's edge. And it is always better to treat a waterhole as though it has a crocodile in it that you can't see. Because just because there wasn't one here yesterday, the day before, or the last year, doesn't mean that today there might not be one. And you should never ever, if you ever come to Africa, apart from the fact that this water is pretty dirty, you should never ever let your kids swim in a dam unless you got absolute confirmation that it's safe to do so. Because there could be crocodiles. Assume a waterhole has a crocodile. Dogs and children. It's a very bad idea, or humans, to let them go swimming in places like this. Because they could, adults I mean, not humans, or adults, not humans. Well, yes, humans. I'll just tie myself in knots. I'll just get a shovel and dig myself out. I find my way to dig myself out of the hole that I've dug. Let's go across to Thamba, who's having some breakfast.
There he is, having his breakfast indeed. He has been having his breakfast for some 20 minutes now, really relishing the taste of fresh, well, fresh-ish, but raw red impala meat in the morning. Yum, yum. Using his carnassial teeth to shear off the meat from the bone, cutting it into swallowable size pieces, and he will gorge himself now. This will not be a very gentle breakfast, a little bit like when we get back into camp, the Wild Earth staff gorge themselves, a bit like Thamba is doing now. In fact, we're not allowed to do that, because we as human beings do not have the constitution that's able to gorge like these chaps do. They will eat until they cannot possibly fit another morsel into their bellies, and then they will go and lie and pant and look very discomforted and uncomfortable. And I think this will last them at least till the end of today, maybe into tomorrow, but I'm not sure. It might not last them all the way till tomorrow. And his mother found a little piece of something. She picked it up and wandered off down away. And it's not uncommon for a male leopard to kind of bully his mother off her kill. And he's got to round about the same size now, and in order to reduce the competition between him and his mother, he will just kind of, I don't know what happens. Sometimes they will growl, sometimes they don't, but often she will just try and reduce the competition or reduce the conflict by taking off a piece and sort of extracting to another area, and that's exactly what she's done here. Now, I was reading a little bit about the leopard while I was waiting for you to come back to me, and I was reading specifically about, and I've gone completely out of my head, it was related to a question we'd been asked earlier, about fighting, and about the number of records that people have of leopards actually fighting with each other. And there are very, very, very few recorded incidents of leopards killing each other in a territorial dispute. Almost none, and in fact, the only one that I could find was a female killing a male, not a male killing a male. So it's quite unusual in any mammal species to find that the males are being more violent than the females, but apparently it does happen in the leopards. At least the other way around. Justin, you want to know if this meat has got a gamey taste to it? I think it really does depend on how you cook it, Justin. I've eaten very nice impala. I don't think it's particularly gamey, no. I don't think it's from a gamey point of view, I don't think it's bad at all, actually. It's not like, I don't know, duck, for example, which can be extremely gamey. He's having a wonderful breakfast there. Akib, you want to know how long the carcass is going to take to start rotting. Akib, I think you'll probably find that it's rotting already. It's just not quite smelling yet, and by the end of today, the odour coming off it will be quite strong. There will definitely be a whiff in the air from rotting flesh come the end of this evening, especially if the day gets warmer. It's quite possible the day will remain like this, you know, with that kind of fairly unpleasant and quite chilly wind. I'm amazed that they have left the entire carcass there and that they have not bothered to go up into the trees. Alrighty, we're going to sit here for another 5 or 10 minutes, and I think we're going to head out of here. While we do that, let's head across to Brent Leo Smith, who's got a vista filled with large floating grey boats.
Well, we are right in the middle of a massive plain, and we actually came looking for hyenas, but instead we found some elephants. We did see one hyena, and I will take you to the den, and it's going to be quite a shock for a lot of people because the dens here are very, very different. Now look at that beautiful big herd of ellies heading across the open grasslands. Okay, Dave, I'm going to do the jump, so I'm not in your way. So I've just got to scuttle across my my turret. There we go. Okay, scuttling across. There we go. And see that lovely herd of ellies now. How many do you reckon? Oh, probably about 25 to 30 elephants. Beautiful. Now, I was hoping one of the little hyena cubs would pop his head up while we were sitting here looking at the elephants, but no such luck. So this big open area that the ellies are walking through now, and it's quite a large one between the river road and the escarpment road. And this is a big swamp mostly during the wet season, and it's not so bad at the moment, but oh, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Having an air scratch while wandering. And there we go. And then some topi in the distance as well. Far, far in the distance. And there's the bull. Now, Lauren in Illinois is wondering what makes elephants more curious than other animals. You probably find it's got a lot to do, if you look at the most curious animals, they've got more complex family structures. So hyenas, elephants, and also just because they're so big, there's very little that can threaten them. That can also help with their, probably with their curiosity. But isn't this absolutely exquisite? Okay, I'm just going to jump down into my turret quickly and reverse back to show you guys something. Now, as I was saying, this is a big swampy area, and but I've got a nickname for it already. I'm just trying to remember how to say the correct name. Let me just go. Bye, ellies. Oh, we got to be careful. There are lots of big holes around here. You know. Oh, you see that there, Dave? Can you get that little hole there? Now, that little hole right next to us there, that little tiny bit of shade, is actually a hyena hidey hole where they can sleep away from the sun. So this is the North Clan territory, and the North Clan is the biggest clan close to camp, and there are around 90 known individuals in the clan. Now, when we've seen hyena dens in the Sabi Sands, you know, those big prominent termite mounds, very easy to spot from a distance quite often. But if you have a look here, to the right of us, this is what a hyena den looks like in the Mara. Okay, I just need to come out of my tone. Sorry for making wobbles, Dave. Okay, so there we go. Let me just find a spot. There we go. So this is what a hyena den looks like here. So, Riki, I think it was hyenas. I had a bit of a break up there. But do they give birth in dens or in open ground? They give birth in dens under the ground. So they'll have a pregnancy den normally, where they'll give birth away from the main part of the clan. This is not. This is a nursery den. So there are a lot of hyenas. So once the hyenas get to a certain age, this is where they'll bring them. So there we go, you can see there's a buffalo skull that's been there. We did see one little one pop his head up when we first arrived, but they're being a bit shy. And there we go, I just wanted to check there we go, the Old Punyata Plain, or the Old Punyata Swamp is the area we're in. And I've got a nickname for it. I quite like it. What do you like it, Dave? So I'm going to get Dave. So you can see basically this whole area from the edge of the escarpment right down. If we keep going all the way down to the Mara River, and there are elephant friends in the distance again. I've nicknamed the Clan Lands because literally with any animal that makes a slight noise of distress, there's 10 or 15 heads that just pop out of the grass anywhere around here. I mean, there's 90 odd hyenas in this clan. It is absolutely massive, and I can't wait for our other vehicles to arrive with our nocturnal setup, because this particular clan, when the wildebeest aren't here, hunt hippo and buffalo. So imagine that incredible, like 30 hyenas running around chasing a hippo in a big open plain. It is going to be some spectacular viewing, and I think we're going to start seeing a lot of behavior that we've never seen before. And the other very, very interesting thing about this whole hyena behavior here is that the hyenas here are all smaller than the ones in the Sabi Sands. So apparently the further south you go, the bigger the hyenas get. Now, I'm not 100% sure why yet. I'm trying to find out. But it could be just due to the fact that the clan sizes here are so big that they don't need to get that size, because when there's 90 of you in a mob, there's pretty much nothing that's going to stop you. And another bit of... Oh, look, Pectoral Patch Testicular. There's a new bird for a bunch of people. Come on, pop your head up now, Pectoral Patch Testicular. Or is it a testicular? I can't really see it now. Ooh. Looked like one. Psst, psst. Oh, there's not. That's not a testicular. That's on. You see on that open bit of ground there, Dave?
Yeah.
What have we got there? Oh, it's a little seed eater. Oh, it looks... Oh, come on, turn yourself. Look, it looks like a little zebra finch. Let me just double check on that for everyone. But there's a new bird for everyone, and maybe even a new bird for me. I think I'm pretty sure what it is. Well, it'll be a new bird for my trip to the Mara. It is an African quail finch. Sorry, I meant quail finch, not zebra finch. An African quail finch. That looks to be the female there. And isn't that exciting? Now, we're going to keep moving. The hyenas are not here. They said from chatting to the researchers, the den sites tend to only really get active after dark. And all these little bushes around here are probably where the hyenas are sleeping, because there is no cover around the den. So we're going to keep moving. I think we might have a couple of surprises still in store for you from Kenya. But while we do that, James has got something you're definitely never going to see in Kenya. And if you do, it's very lost.
There's a nyala, and it's having quite a fun morning. Well, maybe it isn't. It might indeed be an orphan. I don't know where the rest of its herd is, but what it's doing is sort of creeping gently towards the security of a small impala herd. And I'm just quite interested to see what they do with each other. They're not the same species. They don't recognize each other as any kind of threat. But what's interesting is the impala on the right there is a slightly older male. He's probably about 3 or so. And he will still have the testosterone of the rut coursing through his body. The other two are much younger than that. You can see the older one is watching the nyala quite carefully. And it'd be extremely unusual for the nyala to not have some sort of support network from a herd at this age. So let us watch how this interplay between species takes place, or how it plays out. That's really quite sweet, actually. I'm not sure how or why that thing would have been separated from its herd, but it shouldn't be alone. There we go, got into the comfort and safety of having the other antelope around, and now it can start eating. Isn't that amazing? So was not comfortable eating around when we found her on her own here. Walked up to the comfort of those others, and just a little bit wary. A little bit wary of perhaps being chased off. But now everyone's fine. Everyone's comfortable. Now, I don't think this is to say that the rest of her herd has sort of been wiped out. But they're obviously not very close by. This is very sweet. I love seeing things like this. It just shows it takes some of the sort of harshness out of what can be a fairly harsh place, the wilderness out here. You know, we've just watched an impala being devoured by 2 leopards. And we know that it can be a relatively dangerous place if you're an antelope, especially if you're a youngster, and it's not pleasant to watch a youngster on its own out here. And now to see 2 species sort of making friends with each other with no common language other than that of wanting to stay alive, I suspect. I think it's very cool. Sylvia, you want to know if their tails are always that fluffy. Yes, they are, pretty much. I think it's extra fluffy because it's cold. And so they fluff out their tails. And that possibly keeps them a little bit warmer than they would be otherwise. But I think they're all pretty fluffy. But I know what you mean. That one did look sort of extraordinarily fluffy. That's actually very special. Alright, let's drive a little bit closer. Let's see if we can sneak slowly along. Slightly better view. We'll just ease our way along here. HA, you wonder if this is a permanent adoption situation where the impala will take pity on the nyala and adopt it permanently. HA, no, I don't think so. I think it's just very much a temporary arrangement where the nyala, until it finds the rest of its kind, well, probably in the thickets down here, I think it will just spend time using the eyes and ears of the impala. There they are. Even the impala herds are not permanent arrangements, so it's not like these males will always be with each other. They will change about a lot. And while they do that, while they're together, they are obviously looking after each other. There's a much bigger herd down to the south of the north of the airstrip here, which we'll drive past on our way out. And they will be a sort of either a slightly excluded group of bachelors from that herd, or they would have excluded themselves. I'm just listening to the radio to see if we've missed out on anything. There is a cheetah on Cheetah Plains, but perhaps we'll head that way this afternoon. We're not going to get there today before the end of drive. Now, in theory, these things will also be eating different things. In theory, the nyala, and that's why I think it's probably gone into some slightly thicker bush to the left. In theory, it will be looking for leaves that are not grasses, just to the left there, straight in. Yeah, he's just gone in there. So looking for forbs on the ground and possibly now browsing the leaves off those low trees, which is, I think, how that little thing has managed to lose the rest of its herd. I'm sure they've gone browsing into the thickets, whereas he's found himself out in the open and cannot with a digestive system that doesn't cope with grass, and so she will have to try and find some leaves, while the impala of course can do both. Watch up here, Ferg. Male still rutting, female coming to join this gentle group over here. That male, of course, is now probably wasting his time, because it's most likely that the pregnancy has all occurred, all the mating has probably happened. Those that are going to conceive have probably conceived. Maybe one or two females haven't just yet, but we're now almost in June. Can you believe it? And that fence, just in case you're worried, is Chitwa Lodge. And it keeps out the really big stuff, but not the small stuff. Sassy, you say how very beautiful and very peaceful it is, isn't it? Sun warming our faces, nice gentle smell of, well, I guess the winter on the southeasterly breeze. I unfortunately think I did drive over a leopard dung on the way out, which means there's a slight niff in the air from that, which is not very pleasant, but that's okay. And then, of course, the impala just getting on with life. The rams being ridiculous, as always. Let's see what he does. He might chase his female. Violet, do you want to know if that little Nyala will survive if she doesn't connect with the herd? Look, she won't. She won't survive. It's not like she won't find enough to eat. That she will find. It's just much more likely that she will be attacked and eaten by something if she's on her own. And so, you know, whether or not she will survive depends on whether or not she can stay with other animals. And we know whether she stays with this impala group or finds another herd of Nyala. Yeah, that will make a big difference. I think also, if you're a really clever antelope here, while it's certainly not completely safe, it is probably slightly safer to be inside the Chitwa camp, where there's a smell and noise of human being, and that would generally deter predators. But it would also attract things like hyenas, of course, which is not ideal. The night, as they say, Fergus, is dark and full of terrapins. Yes, well done. It's the first time you've got it right.
I've tried to avoid silliness.
Fair enough. Fergus says he's trying to avoid silliness today, so he gave the line correctly. Alrighty, let us move on from here on the Chitwa airstrip. Try and leave the smell of leopard dung behind us on our tyres. I'll turn the car off and roll down here. It's quite a sloped airstrip, this. You want quite a powerful aeroplane, I imagine. Alrighty, I'm not sure how close to home Jamie Patterson has got, but I know that Amanda's happiness as cooking is now filling the air, and certainly that of the Chitwa camp breakfast is filling the air. Let's find out if Jamie has turned north on the scent.
I have indeed picked up on the scent of happiness as cooking, although that might actually be imaginary. I might just be imagining it at this point.
Possibly.
In Philemon's dip, it might be a bit far.
Yes, because, well, if you're with me, you will not find anything. You're imagining.
Tristan and I have just been discussing his morning.
Of nothingness.
Of nothingness.
Of complete, sort of quiet and peaceful bush sounds with no sort of sight of anything besides mating warthogs.
Yes. Okay. Well, maybe, surprise leopard on quarantine. Or something. I don't know.
Maybe we'll find something.
Maybe.
We did a nice bush.
Oh, that's nice. Nice dwarf monks is good. Okay, perfect. I'm going to start marching in the direction of home. Cool. Alright, we're in your way, actually. Please don't run us over. That would really put a dampener on the Mara trip. I'm marching in the direction of home at this point, because I've got a journey to Hoedspruit and then a journey to Johannesburg, and I just know it's going to happen regardless. I'm going to hit Joburg at 5:30 this evening, and what that you've got to get into from this area to get into Johannesburg, you go past the airport and quite a high industrial area. What that means is the traffic is going to be appalling. I'm going to sit for an hour in the traffic trying to cover 20 kilometers. So I know, so I'm marching because I've got trip to Hoedspruit, drop off the rest of the stuff with Brent's mum, say goodbye to Ali, who's in Hoedspruit at the moment, and a couple of other friends in Hoedspruit, and then the long journey to Johannesburg. And my little car doesn't go so fast anymore. It's a great little car, but it's as old as my brother is. It's 19 years old, so it needs gentle encouragement on its way along. So we're marching up the hill. Craig's not going to thank me for this. A high-paced walk up the steepest hill that we have. Not that steep. And Rex is travelling along behind. It's exciting though. I mean, it's nostalgic, it's sad. It's sort of feels odd. I don't quite know how to feel about it being the last day for a while, not forever, but because I don't know how long for a while is going to be. It feels peculiar. There's so many nostalgic, happy memories of different places. Like watching Karula walk along this road so many times with Shungile and Hosanna. What other sightings have I had here? Lots of elephant sightings. There was the one where the female charged us. She came running down the road towards us. I just reversed a little bit and got out of her way. And she stood in the middle of the road, and Viam looks at me and he goes, "So, I guess it's exit stage right then." Pardon? Okay. Alright, we're going to have to head across to one of the other vehicles. Apparently, you are telling us that you're all sad to say goodbye. I know, but it's not goodbye. I'll be in the Mara shortly. Alright, we're going to sort out something. We'll catch up with you later. I'll send you over to Tristan for now.
Well, yes, we're not too far away from Jamie, really, so that scent of eggs and bacon is drifting in the air all over the place at this stage. And I'm sure Jamie must have a little bit of sort of sadness in her heart as she climbs up Philemon's dip for the last time, and for a while it's often quite strange when you know you're going to leave a place for a little bit and come back to it, but there's going to be this kind of gap where you've sort of made a home and you're now going to leave it for a while, and you know you'll come back, but it's always a little difficult, and you get very nostalgic, and even though you know you're going to return, it just kind of has that. And I suppose there's a bit of a fear of the unknown for Jamie. We were talking about it last night. She was telling me that she's got a bit of sort of travel anxiety and that she doesn't know what to expect, and she hasn't been to Kenya before, but I told her she'll love it. Kenya is a great place. It's a beautiful country, and it definitely has traffic problems, but it's got so many amazing parts to it, and I'm sure she's going to be super happy to see Brent again. I know Brent is going to be like a little kid to see Jamie again. He's obviously missed her quite a bit from the conversations we've had, so it'll be really good, and it's going to be so nice to see the team up there and see them thriving and getting their things done, and obviously they will be back in Djuma before we even know it, so it's going to be great. It's going to be a good sort of winter. I think we're going to have lots of fun between all of us, with us here in Djuma and in the Mara. It certainly will be. But as you can see, we are continuing to drive because, well, we found very little. Seb and I have just been saying it's been a very quiet morning for us, so we've struggled a little bit. But what we do have on the road, which is quite cool, is trucks. A monitor lizard, so you'll be able to see its tail sort of swathes going down the road as it's moved its tail. There we go. You can see how the tail has been pushing for it to get up and, well, to walk around. So the tail often then drags like that. Now we can tell actually which direction it's going just by the way that the sand is being pushed. So if we look there, the sand is being pushed to the sort of right and back away from us. So you can see there's like a shadow being formed there. So it means that this monitor lizard was traveling southwards towards us and probably going from WildEarthTV Dam all the way down to Twin Dams. And it seems they've been using this route quite a bit. I know Jamie showed these tracks the other day, and these are fresher ones. These are from, look like from yesterday or last night, and so been moving around quite a bit. But a nice track to see nonetheless. And it's amazing how they use the roads. This track goes all the way down past Ingwe Alley. That's where I first saw it, but it was just nice in the sunlight here that you could actually see the contrast of the track itself. Right, Seb, what are we going to find on the way home? Surely there's got to be an animal for us. Oh, Violet, you would like me to find a honey badger? Well, Violet, I would like to find a honey badger myself, but I don't know if now is going to be a very good time. Honey badgers are often sort of nocturnal, sunrise, sunset times, so it might be a little bit late in the day, although stranger things have happened. I have seen honey badgers at this time of the day before in my life, so it would be very, very, very nice if we could find a honey badger. I would be certainly very thrilled with that. They unfortunately are not the easiest animals to find. They're generally quite sort of shy and skittish, and because we don't spend much time with them, they don't get as used to the vehicles as things like Thandi and Thamba and varying other animals that we see out here. And so generally they hear the cars coming and they kind of scuttle off into the bush, so we don't see too much of them. But I would really, really love to see a honey badger. It's been very long since I saw one. I know Jamie saw one, when was it? Last week, Seb, or this week? I don't even know, I've lost track of time. But Jamie saw one fairly recently, so maybe we'll get lucky, Violet, and we'll be able to see one this afternoon. I don't think we'll find one now, but maybe the sunset safari. So if you're around, join us for this afternoon safari, and we'll see. Maybe we can find a honey badger around the sunset period, and maybe even test a honey badger in infrared. I think a honey badger in infrared would look so cool, because the infrared seems to pump up the contrast heavily between sort of lights and darks, and the honey badger's got that white and black coat, so I reckon it would stand out really well. So it'd be quite cool to find a honey badger in the infrared lights that we have. But let's see, maybe, you never know, maybe one pops out in front of us. Like I said, you can never tell what's around any corner in the bush. You can go around and you can have had the quietest day in the world, and you come around a corner and there'll be a big surprise for you at some stage. So you just never know when going along like this. What has been surprising is just the sheer lack of sort of impalas this morning. We've seen a few, but really not many at all. We've seen the odd male, but it has been very quiet on the impala front even, which means that clearly myself and Sebastian chose the wrong places to drive this morning. Well, not Sebastian actually, that's an unfair comment. It was just me guiding the vehicle, so just me. But alas, there has been nothing, not even any tracks to follow up on either, which is really quite sort of disappointing or despondent. Makes me despondent, so not ideal at all. Right, we're going to check out the dam here, see if I can't find some semblance of life or something with a heartbeat. While we do that, let's go across to the man who's had a very successful morning, Mr. James Henry.
Well, I only had a successful morning because Tristan told me where the leopards were and very kindly and graciously said that I could go to them today, while he went searching for lions, which naturally enough disappeared to Simbambili. So I'm very grateful to him, and I'm going to give the credit for my success entirely to his very graceful nature. Thank you, Tristan. We're on our way back, and I was just saying to Fergus that I thought it was unusually cold for this time of the day. I don't know why it should be this cold, unless of course there is a front coming through, which there probably is. But of course we are heading towards the business end of the winter. In just 23 days we will be in the middle of the year. That's not true. In 23 days we will be at the winter solstice. And then it'll be warm from there, Fergus, you don't have to worry. Sally in Oregon, you're worried about Amanda and what has happened to her. Sally, it's a really uninteresting story that goes around her being on leave. That's all. She's just had her leave. We work a sort of three weeks on, 1 week off cycle for those who live very close by, and Amanda lives in a community just outside, while 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off for those who live much further afield. She's just gone on leave, that's all. I've just had a rather distressing experience. Siri on my phone just asked it, thinks I asked it, hey Siri, 3 weeks on 1 week off cycle. It's still doing this.
Here's what I found on the web for 3 weeks on 1 week off cycle. Have a look.
Are you mad? It's very distressing. It suddenly decided that it's picking up on bits and pieces of what I'm saying and then answering random questions. Shut up. For a minute there I thought Alice was sitting in the box here. Alice, of course, is one of our new directors who has a voice not unlike Siri's. It's very soothing to listen to. Alice is also on leave, by the way. Nothing's happened to her. Although she's gone to Cape Town, which means that she will inevitably have slowed up slightly by the time she gets back. Ah, there's an impala. I'm not going to disturb him. He was in the middle of his morning constitutionals. Sorry about that. Alright everybody, that's going to be it for this drive. We've had a wonderful, wonderful time with leopards. We will hopefully find some more of those this afternoon, perhaps some cheetah as well. Well done Fergus for operating the new camera. Fergus is red-faced and quite tired after the efforts. A big thank you to Jamie and a bon voyage to her. She is, of course, heading to the Mara. The rest of you, we will see this afternoon at 3 o'clock.